Everybody can see that?
Yeah, we can see your screens.
Okay. Okay, so here we go. So again, as I said, it's a great pleasure to be here on this afternoon to talk about dangerous goods, subject that I've loved all through my career in the logistic business. It's a different matter that I started with dangerous goods handling many years back, and then I'm again coming back to the same thing after 35 years. Uh, why are we talking about dangerous goods? What is the big issue about dangerous goods? Okay, they are dangerous because their nature, their hazardous nature, their property, largely being chemical in nature. And those of you who have studied a little bit of chemistry knows how chemistry can be a big problem creator. So hazard creates risk in the transportation because we are not able to control all the element of transportation. And when you have hazardous material going in, and if they are not processed properly, they create a massive risk. When we talk about the risk, I think one big example is good enough to explain what the nature of the risk can be. We all know about what happened at Beerut port, where 2,700 tons of ammonium nitrate, which was lying there for 10 long years without any incident, without any problem, on one fateful morning, caught fire or ignited by a fire which happened in the adjoining warehouse, exploded. And the explosion was good enough to destroy almost 80% of the Beerut city and the port. And the waves generated by the explosion traveled almost 80 to 90 kilometers from the epicenter of the explosion. And one can talk about losses in terms of physical losses of property and cargo and stuff like that. But more than, you cannot ever estimate the loss of human life. And that is where we come to, and here you can see there were more than 200 people who were killed because of that explosion. Now, when you really look at this particular thing, ammonium nitrate, where do we use them? We use them as a raw material for fertilizer. And this is how it was also picked up by the authorities there. It was going on a vessel when the vessel was confiscated because they thought that the material had a dual use purpose. But on the manifest, it was mentioned that it is going as a raw material for a fertilizer plant somewhere in Africa or whatever that location mentioned. But what is the property of ammonium nitrate? When it's lying there for a longer period of time, it picks up moisture from the environment and the sun and solidifies and becomes explosive waiting to explode. And it is not the first time ammonium nitrate really caused a problem. It is the 15th or the 20th time that ammonium nitrate has been involved in this particular matter. Yeah, Ayas, what is the question? You raised a hand.
Panikkar sir, please just continue the session. Whatever Q&A is there, let them ask in the Q&A box if there is anything.
Done. Okay, great. Okay. Now, I explained about what ammonium nitrate is. Now, when we talk about dangerous goods, we talk about dangerous goods because of the inherent risk that is there in transporting. So the basic thing which is to be asked is, what is the risk? And if you look at the risk, always we get the negative aspect. We say risk means something bad is going to happen. Obviously, when you talk about risk, there are two sides to the coin. There's a positive side and the negative side. And this is basically because there is an uncertainty about the effect or implication of the activity. Now, when you do something, you do not know when you're crossing the road, you do not know whether it will be knocked down by the vehicle coming or you will be able to safely cross across the road. You've taken the risk. And how do you take that risk? You estimate the environment, look at how fast the traffic is going to be, how fast you can walk across the road and reach the safety. So when we talk about risk, we are talking about the uncertainty about what? The effect, what is going to happen after the event materialized. Okay, and that is something that we as a human being value: wealth, property, environment. Okay, and basically because of what risk always connotes negative, undesirable consequences. So when we talk about risk, basically two sides of the story: the cause and the effect. Effect you cannot stop because that is the end result of some action you have taken. So how do you mitigate the risk? This picture tells you how to mitigate the risk. You deal with the cause that is going to generate the risk. So dangerous goods regulation, what it does is basically trying to address this particular cause, identify what the causes are, and if you can control the cause, you can make sure that the effect doesn't materialize, because if there is no cause, there is not going to be any effect. So in terms of the dangerous goods regulation, the authorities which created the regulation, they looked at the two risks that comes about transporting dangerous goods. One is safety. From the very beginning, safety was always there. Security was added after 9/11, where you know what happened in US. So across the supply chain, what do you mean by safety risk? Hazard incident likelihood. Suppose I am moving a truckload of DG cargo. Okay, what is the possibility or probability that the truck will meet with an accident? And the content that it's carrying inside it will spill around into the roadside or whatever. Okay, so that is called the incident. If you really look at this likelihood formula, then the ratio or percentage is very, very low, 0.05%. Then once the accident or incident happened, what is the possibility that the content inside has got spilled out of the containment system? So I am carrying, say for example, a highly flammable petroleum product in my truck with inside fiber drums or jerry cans, and the jerry can fell on the road. When it fell on the road, what is the possibility that the jerry can will break and release the petrol into the environment? Okay, that is probability I need to identify. And if you look at the global average, again, the probability is very, very low, 0.05%. If these two probabilities are very, very low, हम इसके बारे में क्यों परेशान हो रहे हैं? इतना लो प्रोबेबिलिटी है, हमको क्यों परेशान होना है? इतना सारा रेगुलेशन करना है, इतना सारा मगजमारी करना है? का कारण ये की है द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस. जब हादसा घटता है, event happens or event materializes, it washes away all the revenue profits that we made earlier to that incident happening. And business can become bankrupt, city can be completely destroyed, country can be destroyed. Okay, all lot of sort of consequences arises when a dangerous goods is involved. So when we talk about safety, then the incident here means any unintentional release. So why this word emphasis unintentional? Because if it's intentional, it leads to the second risk, which is called the security risk. You are intentionally trying to cause harm to the human population. So probability that a threat will exploit the vulnerability. हमारे सिस्टम में लीकेज है, हमारा सिस्टम, हम ट्रक में माल डाल के भेज दिया, हमने लॉक नहीं किया ट्रक को, और उसके अंदर ऐसा डीजी पड़ा हुआ है जो हम दुरुपयोग कर सकते हैं. So we are creating a security risk by not making sure that that material is under safe custody. So here we are talking about protecting the dangerous goods from getting into the hands of adversary. And my dear friends, let me tell you that there are more than 20% of the chemical or dangerous goods that we are transporting have a dual use purpose, meaning that I can take that out and use them for something else. Ammonium nitrate, very typical example. Okay, those of you who have been in the industry for such a long time, we know that the bomb blast that happened in the Mumbai suburban system, okay, when the police went around trying to search, where is that elusive TNT or Semtex? Because generally when you talk about explosion, you try to look at this explosive material which is there. And they were shocked to find that they could not get even a single trace of any of this device. What did they found? They found out that the bomb was nothing but ammonium nitrate put inside a bottle and sulfuric acid, which was used as a detonating device to detonate that explosion. So improvised explosive device, IED as we call them, was what was created out of an ordinary locally available chemical. Now you can get the picture why people get scared when you are talking about dangerous goods and the threat from the dangerous goods. So safety risk means you're talking about explosion, you're talking about flammability, you're talking about corrosivity, you're talking about fire, you're not any other, all those things. Basically, what they do, all these hazards cause death, damage to property, affects environment, affects health in one or multiple manner. When we talk about security risk, we talk about chemicals being used. I already told you, typical chemicals which are used because they're easy to handle, easy to take around is osmium tetroxide. Sometime back, 8-9 months back, there was a story in the newspaper that the police intercepted a truck carrying osmium tetroxide from people who did not have any document to show where they were carrying this particular material. Precursor chemicals have been used also by Session and Rival. You know what is happening in Ukraine, and you also know how Ukraine is fighting Russia by using all sort of unorthodox method. Of course, it also therefore gives important lesson. And remember one thing, that the terrorists of today are much more educated and much more smarter than our technicians, our research scientists, and all those people, because they are all highly educated. They are not the roadside Romeos who are roaming around. They did not have a job. They did not have an education. Who have become. They are people who are there with an ideological purpose, and they will go to do anything to cause harm to the human population. When we talk about risk, then we look at the supply chain, and this is what our supply chain, a typical supply chain, forget about chemical supply chain, but any supply chain that will be there. So we talk about manufacturer, maybe he stores the material before he releases it to LSPs, then it comes to customs, port, shipping lines, airlines, okay, port, LSP, and then goes back. But if you look at all these participants in the supply chain, who do you think takes the maximum risk? Any quick thoughts from anybody?
It's the freight forwarder or the customs broker.
Are you carrying them?
No,
So how do you get the risk? And again, you are connected to the shipper, so you know exactly what the shipper is giving to you.
not every time.
Yeah, okay, maybe yes, I take it, but the major one, who takes the major risk in the entire supply chain? Yeah, please go ahead. You can put in the chat box and somebody can raise it. If you look at this two on the side, the shipping line and the airline, how do you hand over cargo to them? Okay, we give them DG declaration and all that, but what about those we don't declare? What do we go write in our documentation? The word set to contain. And based on that set to contain, the shipping line or the airline is accepting your cargo. And why do they do that? Because in the entire supply chain, there is one important factor that we all deal with, the factor of trust. The shipping line expects the freight forwarder is trustworthy and therefore will not do anything that will cause risk to their property, their vessel, or to the aircraft. The freight forwarder in turn trusts the manufacturer that the manufacturer will provide them with the right information, right data about the material that they are asking them to move to another destination. Okay, so it's basically the shipping line and the airline. Now, of course, one will say that airline is doing a lot of acceptance checks and all that. Yeah, but when do they do the acceptance check? They do the acceptance check when you tell them your cargo is a DG cargo. Do they do the acceptance check when you tell them it's a non-DG cargo? Not at all. Shipping line don't even do a DG acceptance check. Now, of course, you have the new system introduced by MSC on carrying out vanning surveys. Okay, therefore having some bit of idea as to what is there inside the big box. But typically, when you look at this entire thing, it is the shipping line and the airline who take the maximum risk because they're trusting you that the cargo you're delivering to them do not contain any risk. Okay. When you talk about dangerous goods, okay, people tell me, yes, but dangerous goods near, but dangerous goods is there in everything that we deal with, everywhere. basic chemicals, pharmaceutical, agrochemical, consumer product, specialty chemical. So it's lurking around at every nook and corner. Okay, look at lithium battery. It appears in some places where we don't expect them to appear. So we are talking dangerous goods everywhere. Yes, some dangerous goods may not be dangerous at all in that sense. When we pack them, we mark them and all that. But the idea is dangerous goods is everywhere unless and until we are 100% satisfied that the material that we are moving is actually not dangerous goods at all. Mere certification is not enough. Okay, when we talk about managing this risk, okay, how do we do that? ISO 45000 gives us a framework. It says that you need to maintain regulatory and legal compliance and emergency response. Of course, 45000 deals with safety management, but in safety management, it talks about regulatory and legal compliance. And why am I talking about ISO 45000? It's not a lesson on ISO 45000. My friends, 4 years back, UN took a decision that the dangerous goods regulation is not going to be anymore a standalone regulation for transporting DG. Okay, it's not connected to anything the organization does. They said the dangerous goods regulation has to be combined with the organization safety management system. If the organization is not believing in safety, obviously they will never ever comply with the dangerous goods regulation. So this is how they're integrating every element, whether it's ISO, whether it's the dangerous goods regulation, everything, even including the training. And when you talk about training, you see that one of the first objectives that the training school will have to now start asking the organization sending people for training is, do you have a safety management policy? Because your employee must know about the safety management, because it's integrated approach now and not a standalone approach. If you look at this typical hierarchy of control that anybody who was involved in risk management will know this, that there are 5 levels of managing to eliminate risk. First is eliminate the cause of the risk itself. That means remove the chemical. Unfortunately, as LSPs, we don't have that opportunity because we have to move what is given to us. So we cannot eliminate the chemical. Chemical will come, chemical will go. And there are many dangerous goods which are critical raw material for the finished goods. So we cannot do anything about it. Can you substitute? There also, we cannot replace, substitute that a chemical with another chemical which is less hazardous. Of course, the organizations are trying to do that by saying they are doing green chemical and all that, but all those are fancy words to me. You cannot really substitute the chemical which are needed. So what do? There are 2 methods that are available, okay, besides the 5th one, which is personal protective equipment. Why one doesn't talk about that in risk management primarily because it is a behavioral issue. You may or may not take it as personal choice. But engineering control deals with the idea of isolating people from the hazard by methods we are talking about, we'll talk about later, and administrative control by changing the way people work in dealing with such hazardous material. So what did UN come up with? UN came out with a 3-pillar approach in managing the safe transport of DG. First, they said we need to create an international regulation, okay, which must be such that no other country will object to, or no other country say, I will not follow it. So the best option was the United Nations. So United Nations created a committee of experts to come out with a recommendation for transport of DG. Okay, because it was expert, an expert cannot be a regulatory body. Okay, so therefore they use the word UN model recommendation, or what we call in our business the Orange Book. What did the Orange Book tell, or what did the Orange Book went out to do? It said, let us create a regulatory framework which will allow for free, unrestricted, but safe transportation of dangerous goods. Because it's dangerous goods, then on one hand you say there is a risk there, and on the other hand you say you want to transport it. So, and unrestricted there, that also unrestricted. So how do you do that? By creating a safety net around the dangerous goods. Okay, and while we transport them, they must not pose any risk to health, property, and environment. And in doing this, how? By adhering to one universal, uniform international standard. Okay, and the beauty of their recommendation was that we will not create a regulation which is cast in stone. We will learn from the past incident and their causes and keep on evolving the system to make it better and better. So this is one regulation, global regulation, which evolves every year. So every 4 years, the UN recommendation Orange Book gets updated. The regulatory framework that we talk about, the IMDG code and IATA technical instruction, they get updated every 2 years. The objective for the UN Orange Book was prevention of incident happening rather than penalizing the offender. So nowhere in the dangerous goods regulation, you will see a penalty clause. The penalty is determined by the state or by the country in which you are operating. So this Orange Book acted as a model recommendation. What is this? I'm sorry, have you gone out?
No, sir. Are you facing any other issues?
No, I don't know why I am having this, something which has come into my, to close this. Yeah. Okay. So this Orange Book then became the basis for creating the model regulation. Second pillar was, they said, we can safely transport it. How? By classifying and identifying the dangerous goods, determining what is the nature of the risk which is there, packing it to defang the dangerous goods. यानी कि हम कोबरा हमारे को काटने आता है, उसका पकड़ के उसके गले के अंदर से हमने अगर पॉइजन निकाल दिया तो कोबरा cannot do anything. Okay, it's harmless. Same way, if we pack the dangerous goods, then we make it harmless. Okay, market and labeling, we talk about hazard communication, communicate, isolate the people. How do you do that? By communicating the nature of the hazard. We do that through marking and labeling. And finally, we document what we are doing. All this being in the domain of the shipper or anybody who's taking the responsibility for the shipper. And the third pillar of that recommendation was there must be training and regulation. Continuous training of all the people in the supply chain, right from the time of their employment to regular recurrent training every 2 years. The idea being to keep them updated all the time. Based on this framework, what you see on this chart is the international regulatory framework. On the top sitting is the Orange Book, and based on the Orange Book, you have the regulation which has been created, because only 2 branches or 3 branches of the United Nations have the regulating power. Regulating power means they have the ability to create laws which are accepted. One is the Security Council. The second is the trade bodies, which is, one is the International Maritime Organization, IMO, which created the IMDG code, and ICAO, which is the International Civil Aviation Organization, which created the ICAO technical instruction. And then they are based on this, IATA picked up and created the IATA DGR, which incorporates all the provisions of ICAO technical instruction plus something extra, and we have the field document. Now, IMDG code and ICAO technical instruction are legal documents. So if something goes wrong, whom do you refer to? What do you refer to? Not the IATA DGR, but it is the ICAO technical instruction or the IMDG code. And why they become law? Because every country has to ratify. You are talking, you know about Montreal Convention, you know Warsaw Convention, all those which are convention for paying claims and damages. And unless and until a country ratifies, it does not become the law. Similarly, the IMDG code and ICAO technical instruction does not become the law in the country unless the country ratifies it. Okay, and once more than 50% of the countries ratify that, they become international law in practice. So this is how the regulatory framework was created. Then there are road regulations and rail regulations and water regulations in Europe. By the way, the ADR, which was road regulation for Europe, in 2020, the United Nations decided that ADR will become the international road regulation. So over a period of time, all the countries will start moving towards the ADR for their domestic transportation needs. If you look at the Indian legal regime, you have the merchant shipping carriage of cargo rules, which talks about dangerous goods carriage in accordance with the IMDG code. You have the multimodal transportation. Now, one of the problems with multimodal transportation is it talks about provisions and liabilities of dangerous goods, but nowhere in the act it talks about what exactly is dangerous goods and in what manner dangerous goods must be processed. So that's a lacuna in the multimodal act, which I don't know, nobody has pointed out to the government. Section 16 of the Atomic Energy Act deals with permission for transportation of radioactive material. Whether you import it, you export it, you store it, you move it domestically or internationally, you need the approval from AERB. And then you have another one, MSIHC rules, which became very prominent in the recent past, primarily because of the ammonium nitrate incident in Virat, where suddenly the custom woke up and started inquiring where ammonium nitrate is lying in any of the ports, so that they could be moved to the safer environment. But this is a very onerous regulation which talks about bringing the dangerous goods, importing dangerous goods, storing only after taking permission from the controlling department, which is the State Pollution Control Board, and permission to be taken 90 days before the actual arrival of the goods. And you all know that in our industry, that is next to impossible, that you don't even know what is there in the container till the container actually arrives. So forget about taking approval. There is a list of material for which quantity based on which you have to take the approval within a particular period of time. So in total, what do you mean by regulation? Everything. The IMDG code, the ICAO technical instruction, IATA DGR, government circulars, Indian legal regime, any guideline note issued by the shipping line, anything and everything to do with the dangerous goods issued by any authority or any agency which has the mandate to do so becomes a regulation. So it's a sum total of everything. So many people make a mistake, say, okay, in the IMDG code, it is not mentioned, or in the IATA DGR is not mentioned. It does not mean it is not to be regulated. You have to look into the government circular and see, are there anything or a shipping line or the airline to check whether any mandate has been given by them, whether they'll accept or not accept. And therefore, you see that many airlines from India do not accept DG cargo. Same thing with shipping line. Many shipping line don't accept DG cargo. Some who accept will say, okay, I don't want to carry 5.1, creating a big nuisance value all around the place by their refusal, because 5.1 is one material which really moves in large quantity by ocean cargo. So if you look at this picture, and you can see, and I've deliberately kept different images out over here, okay, all of them, okay, can you call them dangerous? Now, if you look at the first picture, I'll go by this one, okay, you have both the cats there, okay. One of them is a domestic cat, the other is a wild animal, we call it the tiger, okay. Is tiger dangerous? In a sense, yes, because there is risk to my life, okay. But is it dangerous in accordance with the regulation? We'll answer that question later. You look at this cobra, I talked about a cobra, you talk about the poison, okay. So cobra also has the ability to kill you, because when they bite you, the poison gets transferred and in your body, and if you don't take the patient to the hospital in time, probably he would get killed, and poison itself is a poison. And then you have the two things which people have never ever thought could become dangerous. One is the hand sanitizer. Okay, suddenly in COVID, we realized hand sanitizer is also a dangerous goods. Why that magic happened? We were using sanitizer before. Nobody talked about sanitizer as being dangerous. It lies in the property of the hand sanitizer post-COVID. Post-COVID, the hand sanitizer, which uses alcohol as a base, had to increase the alcohol content to percentage which made it flammable liquid. Earlier, the concentration was less than 45%. Okay, good enough for taking care of other germs. But when COVID came, you needed more than 55% alcohol content proof for it to act against the COVID viruses. And suddenly, very innocuous looking stuff like a hand sanitizer became a DG cargo. Dry coconut, kernel, copra as we call them. Dangerous, we eat them. But yes, it is also dangerous because, and why they are dangerous is what we will try to understand that. Okay. And that comes from this definition of what is dangerous goods. Dangerous goods, according to the regulation, is any substance or article which is capable of posing a risk to health, safety, property, and environment. And why this is so important? Because this tells us for which of the item in the previous slide are actually dangerous. Okay, they must be identified as being dangerous in the list of dangerous goods. Where is that list of dangerous goods? It is in the regulation. Which regulation? Both in the IMDG as well as IATA DGR. And where do they come from? Why do we have something called the UN number? They both come from the same document called the UN Model Regulation, because only the United Nations can determine whether a substance is dangerous or not, and they do that by putting them in this list. So you have one list. At the top is the IATA DGR book, from where you can see the list of them. We'll see when do they become dangerous, how do you define whether they're dangerous or not, and then you have the IMDG code below that. If they are not listed, but you think that there is a risk from their transportation because it contains some hazard, then you need to identify them in terms of one or more of the 9 hazard classes which the United Nations has prescribed for the entire dangerous goods universe. So there are 9 hazard classes, and some hazard class have division. So if my product comes within the purview of this definition for dangerous goods, then and then only my substance is dangerous. And that is one of the reasons why tiger and the cobra, even though we know they are dangerous, we cannot call them dangerous in context of the dangerous goods regulation, because both of them are what? They are animals, and what we want, we are talking about substance and article. We are not talking about animals, wildlife, or whatever. They are covered under the different regulation. Okay, so whenever you do anything, you have to always match your product with the definition which is there. And that's one of the reasons why copra becomes dangerous, because it comes under the class what we call division 4.2, substance liable to spontaneous combustion, because listed there in the list of dangerous goods as well. So there are 2 types of substance we talk about generally, because the word is also confusing: dangerous and hazardous. Now, in a normal usance, which we talk about, okay, both appears to be the same, but they are not same. Dangerous goods is defined in the regulation, whereas hazardous material are those substances which are classified based on the adverse effect they may have on human being or animal. Okay, so they are covered under the another regulation, which is called the GHS, or Globally Harmonized System of Labeling and Classification. So all dangerous goods in a sense are hazardous in nature, but all hazardous material are not necessarily dangerous. And that's what you have to really understand. So even if you get an hazardous material, one thing you need to check, well, do they become dangerous because they meet the property of the dangerous goods class. Okay. Now, why do we talk about all this? We talk about all this because I said in the beginning, the risk that is being taken by the shipping line and the airline. And I'll just throw light on some of the major incident which happened by ocean cargo and air cargo. So first one, 2002 November, Okay, this vessel was completely gutted. It was carrying dangerous goods which were not declared as dangerous goods by the shipper, and they were loaded in the wrong place by the shipping captain because he did not know there were dangerous goods on board. He loaded it at the aft of the vessel where the engine rooms are, and the heat of the engine room transmitted or radiated into the container and ignited the phosphorus and firework loaded in the container. A similar incident happened in another vessel, which is 2006 MV Hyundai Fortune. Similar problem, similar case. Again, you had fireworks and phosphorus being transported in the container undeclared. Okay, and it's unfortunate that the example that we have are all those which are coming from China, but India is not far off. Okay, this one was really not an incident which happened intentionally by any misdeclaration. This was an incident which happened where the shipper as well as the trade and the regulators were actually caught unaware of one major property that they are not considered while classifying. That is, there are some chemical substance which can ignite or can decompose and polymerize, creating flammable gas which can explode. And this led to change in the classification, some classification of the hazard classes. And I'm going to talk about that too much. Here, one more incident on 15,500 TEU vessel, Yugyang Mers. Luckily, the fire tender was able to reach there, and luckily the container was on the front of the superstructure, so they were able to action it very easily. And by the way, I assume all of you know that the captain of the vessel has absolute power on the ocean, and he can dump any container or any cargo which he thinks can cause a risk or threat to his vessel or to the people on board. Okay, so that is the reason why dangerous goods cargo are generally loaded on the top deck and not at the bottom deck of the vessel. Then another vessel, Berk Hunam, which happened off the coast of India, of Mumbai, where there was a massive fire. And when the Coast Guard went to the rescue, they realized, looking at the flame, that it was a chemical fire, and almost 15 containers were there which contained chemical, and all of them caught fire. And unfortunately, this container were loaded just in front of the superstructure. So some crew members were also killed. Most of them jumped and escaped. And the captain had to declare a general average so that the cost of the damage could be shared by all the parties which were moving the freight in that particular vessel. The question is, why such incident keep repeating despite the fact that we have international standard in form of the UN regulation? Okay, before I answer that question, some more incident, calcium hypochlorite. And after this incident, most of the shipping line refused to accept calcium hypochlorite 5.1. I do not know why, but calcium hypochlorite generally does not catch fire by itself unless there is a mitigating circumstances. That means there are other products which are available in there. And this one, very famous one, Pearl Express, we all know about it. Okay, it was supposed to pick up cargo from Hazira port and from Mumbai port, but before it entered the harbor of Hazira port, it caught fire. It was carrying 30 odd containers with nitric acid, and the contents had spilled out of the containment system and reacted with each other and created the fire. Ultimately, no port in India gave them the harbor, and it sailed all the way to Colombo and disintegrated and drowned, creating a huge ecological disaster for Sri Lanka. Okay, we talk about air cargo. Then the first incident was in 1972 when a freighter which was operating within US crash landed because the shipper had declared a shipment of sulfuric acid as medical supplies, and it caught fire and the entire aircraft burnt and crash landed. The second one before this one was the 1995 crash, where ValueJet crash, where expired oxygen generator were loaded by the airline to the airline mistake, not that the shipper made a mistake. And that expired oxygen generator, somehow the other caught fire, and before the crew realized, the entire aircraft was engulfed in fire. There is a sort of what you call a video on that incident on the YouTube. One can search out, which is there. Simulated exercise, which was conducted by the FFA, and they created the entire sequence of event as to what happened on that fateful day when the flight took off within the US. And then this one that you see the picture is a UPS aircraft which crash landed, completely burned at the back portion. The pilot had to jump out of the cockpit to save themselves after landing, and they found out it contained lithium batteries and corrosive material, which combined and ignited inside the aircraft. There are other such incidents where Boeing 747 of Asiana also had DG cargo. There was a fire on board. The captain was not able to control the fire inside the aircraft. It crash landed into the sea. Okay. Then in Kochi airport, this was a lucky incident where exporter shipped 98 boxes with the declaration that it contained medical equipment. On the way to the flight, the package fell down on tarmac because this was a smaller aircraft, Boeing 320. So it was loose loading and taking this cargo in boxes, in a trolley ramp, and it was so lucky that it rained in Kochi airport that day. And when the package fell down and the bottles or whatever was carrying the content inside broke, the content leaked and reacted with the water, throwing fumes around the place. So the guy who was carrying that realized it was a DG cargo and immediately kept the cargo on hold for inspection by the DG authorities, and they realized that the shipper had misdeclared. So some more, a lot of them by courier mode as well. Now, why do this incident happen? And there was a study done in US over 18 months period to look at the action of the shipper and the forwarder as to why the dangerous goods incident keeps on happening. And when they did that analysis, this is what they found out, that leakage of dangerous goods was resulting in 46% of the problem related to dangerous goods. Okay, when you talk about the potential cost, then you can see here, and this is very worrying factor, that poor packaging was 30% of the reason why dangerous goods incident happened. Misdeclaration, 24%, and incorrect packing, 7%, 61%. You can see where causes related to the shipper. And if we were to do the survey again, one would not be surprised to see that the same result is there. Okay, and if you look at analysis by country and the continent, you can see that India and China are up there. Okay, so is also Europe and US. It's not to say that only India are the offending country. The Europeans are no better. How do you manage this risk? So we pick up from what the United Nations Orange Book says, that first you need to identify the risk through testing and technical analysis of the product, which is done by the shipper, not by us. Then validate that by classifying and identifying that. Thereafter, the important aspect to control the risk is to pack it, mark it, label it, and document it. And then you review all the time whether the compliance is happening. And this, as I told you, has to become integral part of the management system, safety management system. Unfortunately, while we always say that we are partner to our customer, that is a shipper, we generally are not. We are not that integrated so much with them that they always share all the things with us, all the correct information with us. So in essence, how do you manage that is by three methods of manage the risk. That is process, identification, classifying, and packing. That's the responsibility of the shipper. hazard communication, marking, labeling, and placarding of the container. Again, that of the shipper. And if we are assuming the responsibility, our job to ensure that the proper marking and labeling and placarding is done to the container, and then creating the shipper declaration and the MSTS. Okay. So basically, identification means the whole idea of identifying what is my product. Is it dangerous goods or not? If it's dangerous goods, is it listed in the list of dangerous goods? So two methods to know whether my product is dangerous or not. I need to find out that does it have a UN number and does it have a proper shipping name? And if it is there and listed in the list of dangerous goods, so you can see this list which is there in the IMDG code. Okay, in column 1, you have the UN number, and the column 2, you have the proper shipping name. What is the proper shipping name in this column 2? Whatever is written in capital letter is my proper shipping name. Everything else in the descriptive text only helps me get to the correct this thing. And then if I look over here for this product, okay, 1250, I know the hazard class, which is class 3, and I know the sub risk, which is class 8. So it has two types of hazard, class 3 hazard and a class 8 hazard. Okay, and when you talk in terms of IATA DGR, okay, the IATA DGR presentation is different than the IMDG, where you have the UN number, same column, but you have the proper shipping name. But the proper shipping name is not appearing in capital text, but it's appearing in bold text. The bold text gives me the proper shipping name. And here, in this case of class, the class is given in column number 3. Okay, if it's got multiple hazard, within the bracket, the multiple hazard is given to me. Now, what is the difference between these two listing of dangerous goods? One in the IMDG code and the other in the IATA DGR. In the IMDG code, there are 2 pages, left and right page. Across the page, on the 2 pages, there's only one entry in the row. So the first column and the 18th column both will contain the UN number. Okay, and then I have my proper shipping name given in capital letter. Okay, now what is important to understand is that this UN number and the proper shipping name is same across any mode of transport because it comes from UN. The word UN means the United Nations has given this number. They are the only authority, the UN experts, who can give this number. So they will keep on identifying, trying to find out what is the product there. Is it dangerous? What can I uniquely identify it or not? Now, while products are listed here by the UN number and proper shipping name, there are many other products which are not listed. Then how do you identify whether they are dangerous? Of course, this is not part of this webinar today as to how do you identify them, but the shipper generally has to do the identification. That's why we say it's only the shipper who's responsible to identify the or the non listings. There are around 3,500 names. These 3,500 names actually cover the entire universe of dangerous goods, which are more than 1 lakh. How do they do that? Because there are mandated by the United Nations where any product is dangerous. I just need to have their properties and I can find out the UN number for it and the proper shipping name. Okay, by the methods which are also prescribed in the regulation. I cannot do anything beyond what is listed, what is given there in the regulation. It has to be there. So, and many products, and why is that? Because many DG products are primarily derivatives. Let's take the simple example of acetone. I can create multiple products of acetone. Even if I do the basic thing that I dilute the acetone, a new product is created. If I mix acetone with kerosene, a new product is created. Now, what type of hazard will come in the first and what type of hazard will come in the second resultant product depends on the testing that I have to do. So if I take the example of Trump, okay, and we said Trump is both toxic and corrosive, is it dangerous? is Trump dangerous? I cannot say that by the name because word Trump does not appear in the dangerous goods listing. So how do I get to know it's dangerous or not? Is by looking at the property and then the technical report and the MSDS, and then I get the name, which is could probably be that this product Trump is toxic, solid, corrosive, NOS. And I write the bracket, okay, this is Trump. Okay, so I need to validate the data with the hazard class. Is it what is toxic? Is it a dangerous goods class? How do I get to that class? So each hazard class has predefined properties. Who defined the property? The UN Committee of Experts. The shipper or we are not defining or not creating a new hazard class. The class is there, and it's, for example, all of you must have done blood test, okay, during the course of your lifetime. When you look at the blood report, okay, even before you go to the doctor, you know whether you are suffering from some deficiency or the other. How do you get to know that? Because for every blood test report, there is 3 columns. Okay, the first column gives the type of testing that has been done or what you've been tested for. It could be cholesterol, it could be sugar, it could be liver problem, whatever. Second column, you have what is called the actual data, the data which has been taken out based on the testing on your blood. And then on the third column, you have the reference range, the criteria. If you meet that criteria, you are not having any problem. If you don't meet that criteria, you are having a problem. In dangerous goods, same thing. In the hazard class, okay, each of these hazard 9 classes, each of these classes have got a property defined. Okay, and what the shipper is doing, taking the hazard property, okay, and checking it with the property given in the regulation. If the property matches, he says my product is hazard. The property doesn't match the list given there, then he says, okay, my product is not dangerous goods. Now, how is the classification done by the UN committee? The classification is done when the UN committee looked at the transport environment. They felt there are 3 major problems in transporting dangerous goods. One is flammability. What is flammability? Ability of the substance to catch fire. When does the substance catch fire? You look at the fire triangle, it says 3 elements, oxygen, fuel, and heat is required. Does it give you an idea as to how you can prevent the fire? Very simple. Eliminate one of the 3 things from there. The fire will not happen. Same way, I go to toxicity. There are 3 types of toxicity which is there. Oral, dermal, and inhalation. My hazard from toxicity comes from 2 things. How much time I'm exposed to the toxicity and what is the level of toxicity. Third major factor was corrosive. So if you look at these 3 things, flammability, toxicity, and corrosivity, and compare the types of dangerous goods that you are dealing with, or if you're not dealing with, but what will come into your hand will be substance with these 3 properties. Largely, almost 80 to 90% of the dangerous goods will have either flammability or toxicity or corrosivity as their hazard. Then there are radioactivity, there are explosivity, and all those stuff which are there. So the UN has divided the dangerous goods into substance and articles. Even finished goods are considered to be dangerous goods if they contain any items of dangerous substance inside them. For example, aerosols, batteries, airbag inflators, okay, equipments. They're all dangerous if they contain some dangerous element inside them. Okay, and each of this hazard class presents varying degree of danger. So class 1 does not mean it's more dangerous than class 2. Class 7 does not mean it's more dangerous than class 6. This number are random. The first identified dangerous goods in the world was explosive, therefore it's class 1. And then it moves from gas to liquid to solid, and then so on and so forth. And you can see over here that in the 9 hazard class, there are some hazard class which are further divided into sub-hazard class. So for example, class 2 is divided into 3 divisions. Division 2.1 is called flammable gas. 2.2 is called non-flammable, non-toxic gas. 2.3 is called toxic gas. Okay. Similarly, you have class 4, which is divided into 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3. You have 5 also same, 2 hazard division for oxidizing substance and organic peroxide. 6, which I call the class of death, because the end result of their impact on human being is certain death. That is toxic substance, 6.1, and infectious substance. We already know what COVID can do. Okay. And 7 is radioactive substance. I call it the silent killer, because you cannot see them, you cannot feel them, you cannot identify them. They kill you through radiation, and radiation damages the tissue or the cell in the human body, which creates the life. And then you have corrosive, you have miscellaneous dangerous goods. Now, what you see over here in this image, in this slide, is that for each hazard class, there is a hazard label. Okay, this is the label which identifies the packages from the danger. Okay, each of them are created in order to exactly explain without any words what could be the nature of the danger, and we'll examine them, each of them a little bit in detail, not going too much into it, but just to understand what is the nature of the hazard. Okay. Chaitanya, shall we create a break here now, or we move forward?
Sir, it is up to you. We can take a break. If you want to go ahead, we leave it up to you. It is 4:05 right now. Do you want to take a
So,
10-minute
let's
break?
take a break, and then take a break, and up to 4:15 we take a break, and then come back at 4:15.
Okay, so to all the participants, may we request you to join us back at 4:15, and then we will continue with the balance session. And we hope that you have found so far everything interesting and that you've learned something new today. Thank you very much. We'll see you all at 4:15 again. Thank you. Sir, 4:15 back.
Yeah.
Please don't quit. You don't need to leave. Please stay on. Don't quit. Please stay on. Just put yourselves on mute, or hide your videos, whatever you need to do. Take a break, drink some chai, coffee, use the restroom, and then come back. We're all going to keep our sorry, excuse me. Excuse me. We are all going to be here. Just going to come back in 15 minutes time. Thank you. And to Achyut, yes, we will try and get you a recording of this session. I'm not sure. But sir, would you be able to share the presentation with us so that we can share with the members? We will get back to you on that. Thank you very much. people.
Okay, I'm there.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the second part of the basics of DG Cargo for Air and Sea with Mr. Panikar of DGM. Mr. Sanjeev Harale could not join us initially because of the technical problem. He's with us here. He's the Senior Vice President for BCBA. And may I please request Sanjeev to say a few words, and then over to you, Mr. Panikar, for the next part of it.
Yeah, thank you, Chaitali, and hello, good evening, everyone. We apologize for the delay in starting today's webinar, as we were facing a lot of technical issues. So thank you, friends, for attending in such large numbers. I would like to thank our speaker, Mr. Radharaman Panikar, for bringing out the various nuances with regards to identifying risks on DG goods and the various hazard classes. All of us, as brokers, we handle freight bookings on, and we go through and we rely on the DG regulations manual every day to make sure dangerous goods are transported safely and efficiently. Handling DG goods is gaining tremendous significance as a lot of changes are coming up from compliance point of view. And with new industries and manufacturing facilities coming up in India, DG Cargo from India is going to be an area of the next growth curve. Today's webinar is a preliminary understanding of the topic, and BCBA will be ensuring that adequate full-length training is provided for IATA as well as IMDG in the near future. So thank you, Mr. Panikar, for being here with us. And there couldn't be anyone better than an industry expert like you to enrich all of us and our members with on this topic. So thank you, and you can please take it forward.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Thank you, sir, for the nice word. Okay, guys. So, and the participants. Oh, sorry, guys and girls who are there or madams who are there. We looked at before the short break that the dangerous goods are identified by the UN number, but that is also not enough. There are many stuff which are non-listed, and we need to list them. For listing them, we need to know what are the hazard classes and how do I look at my product in absence of a UN number and proper shipping name and know that they are dangerous. And I do that by looking at the hazard classification properties. Okay, so while we look at that, there are also another measure of risk that is taken into consideration, that is a packing group. So many classes are so large within themselves that you cannot bring all the products into one parameter. For example, if I take acetone, it is class 3. Okay, and if I take kerosene, that is also class 3. But when I look at the risk profile or the way or when they will catch fire, both are at a different spectrum. One has what is called the flash point, which determines what is the possibility of the product catching fire. Acetone has a flash point of -20 degrees centigrade, whereas kerosene has got the flash point of 45 degrees. So there's a big gap between these two products. So are they uniformly dangerous? Answer is no. acetone is more dangerous than kerosene. Okay, so to capture that particular thing within the particular hazard class, I have another property which is called the packing group. So packing group 1 means that a substance within that particular hazard class is having a high degree of danger, whereas packing group 3 indicates low degree of danger. And this packing group criteria are developed for classes for dangerous goods in class 3, class 4, division 5.1, division 6.1, and 8. Now, friends, now you start wondering, I'm not talking IMDG, I'm not talking IATA DGR. The reason is very simple. Okay, for a larger part of the regulation, both the regulation are same in terms of identification, same in terms of classification, same also in terms of packaging solution, okay, and also that of marking and labeling. The difference arises in 2 areas. One, in the case of IMDG cargo, the packaging solution is vast. I can go from small standard packaging to using an ISO tank, which can carry 20 tons of material. Okay, whereas in air, the maximum I may be able to carry in a very conservative, non-conservative manner is probably 200 kilos or 200 liters, not more than that. Okay, so that's where the difference comes in. Secondly, as far as packaging solution is concerned, okay, in case of IMDG code, I don't need, I can send larger quantity per package. I can send up to 400 kilos in one standard packaging, whereas for air cargo, even though technically I'm allowed to carry, my packing instruction will not allow me to carry, or the restriction in the IATA DGR will not allow me to carry more than 5 liters in some case for passenger aircraft, and maximum maybe on 60 liters for cargo aircraft. So when you talk about this 2 mode, okay, in air restriction is severe, and that is very obvious. The reason is in air, almost 70%, forget about what happened during COVID time, but in normal time, 70% of the cargo goes on passenger aircraft. That means there is an added risk of passenger safety which is involved, and therefore the quantity limitation, but you reduce the risk, or try to reduce the risk by reducing the quantity per package. If I have, say, I can send hypothetically 2 tons also, or 10 tons of material in air, but to do that, I have to package them in small quantities. Okay, so that is where the packing group comes into play to define, in both the cases, how much quantity per package I can send. Okay, so 2 things is the packing group does. 1, tells you the degree of danger. 2, specifically in case of air cargo, it restricts the quantity limit per package that we'll see a little later. Okay. All this classification are codified in the UN model recommendation, which is then picked up by IMDG code and IATA DGR, and there's a manual of criteria, nothing to be done by us. Okay, so I will go now, instead of trying to explain all the hazard classes, which will not make sense, I'll pick up those hazard classes which are typically that we deal with. Okay, others are like explosives and radioactive are unique cases that requires a lot of other consideration. So I will start with gases. Now gases, all gases which at pressure of 50 degrees at a temperature of 50 degrees has a pressure greater than 300 kilopascal are called dangerous gases. Okay, and classified in class 2. And there are 5 methods which are prescribed for transporting gases. We have seen some of them during the COVID time. Liquefied gas, oxygen. You cannot transport oxygen in any other manner except by liquefying oxygen. Okay, any normal air you want to transport, okay, you need to transport it under compressed condition. Otherwise, very small quantity will come in. What about refrigerated liquefied gas? Is there something like that? Yes, nitrogen transported at minus 180 degrees centigrade. Okay, very cold. You put your hand inside, nothing will come out. Okay, everything is gone. that how cold is. So these are methods in which the gases are transported. In this, one method typically, okay, makes the material dangerous on the physical hazard basis. Compressed gas. Now, gas may not be dangerous in itself, but the moment I compress it, my pressure increases, and therefore, even though the gas may not have any chemical hazard, that becomes dangerous because I am putting inside a cylinder at very high pressure. And what is the risk there? This pressure, it's like a missile. Nozzle takes off, the cylinder will move like a missile and cause massive damage to anybody who comes in its path. The gases, as we saw, is divided into three divisions. The first division is flammable gas, gases which will ignite, okay, in very small quantity. I'm not wanting to go into the criteria, but you can see that every hazard class will have specific criteria. Here, the criteria is what is the percentage at which it should be ignitable, which is 13% or less. Meaning what? If I have a flammable gas, a gas which can catch fire, let's put it that way, which can ignite, when the quantity of gas is 40%, then I don't consider that gas to be dangerous. Because what we said, we are only talking about dangerous goods when transporting them. Okay, and they have to meet the specific criteria. So in very small quantity, if it catches fire, it becomes dangerous. Okay, example is methane gas. And you can see that for each hazard class, there is a label. Now here, red is the universal sign of fire. And the symbol of fire is inside that. And there is a number 2 shown at the bottom. Each of this hazard label is of 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter diamond shape label with the hazard symbol given there. Is the class name to be given? Class name is optional. Okay. Then comes toxic gas 2.3. I've just deliberately gone to toxic gas first, though it's division 2.3. Is gases which are either toxic, that means poisonous, or they are corrosive, which can damage skin. Okay. And again, here you'll see a criteria is given. What is the criteria? LC50 value. LC50 lethal concentration is a measure which is used to determine the toxicity or corrosivity of the material. Chlorine gas is an example. If you look at the label over here, okay, look at the label. Anything that comes to your mind, it's a white label with a skull and a crossbone there. And number 2 there means there is other such class which also has got the same property. Okay, and we'll see that. So what is the white symbol of? Peace. Somebody breathes it, he goes for a long sleep. Okay, never to get up again. So we see that when you have a dead body, we put a white cloth, a white shroud. So white indicates death, and the skull mark indicates the danger of death coming from being exposed to the toxic gas. So if 2 division, one is flammable, the other is toxic. What is the 3rd division? Substance which are not toxic nor corrosive. That is division 2.2, and they cannot be defined in 2.1 or 2.2, are defined in division 2.2. And look at the label over here, green label. What is the hazard symbol? It's a cylinder. So here the threat comes not from the chemical hazard, but from the cylinder, because the cylinder is in compressed state, high pressure. So any damage to the nozzle, that cylinder will become a major threat. So included in this class are all exfusient gas, like gases जो अगर हमने breathe कर लिया, हमारे system से oxygen निकाल के हमको मार डालता है, carbon dioxide, oxygen, krypton. Okay, these are all the types of gases which are coming under division 2.2, and included in class 2 are also all types of aerosols. Then comes class 3, another major hazard class which we see in the transportation, and this is liquid chemical, which how do you define flammable liquid? Now the word flammable liquid gives us a picture कि ये substance होगा, ये हमेशा आग पकड़ते रहेगा. ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं है. इसका मतलब यही है कि वो लिक्विड है जिसका फ्लैश पॉइंट 60 डिग्रीज के बराबर है या उसके नीचे है. व्हाट डू वी मीन बाय फ्लैश पॉइंट? ये वो टेम्परेचर हमको दो चीज हमने स्कूलों में पढ़ा था. एक था मेल्टिंग पॉइंट, जो उस टेम्परेचर में एक सॉलिड सब्सटेंस लिक्विड में कन्वर्ट हो जाता है. एंड सेकेंड वन वाज बॉइलिंग पॉइंट, जो लिक्विड सब्सटेंस गैस बन जाता है. ओके, देयर इज अ थर्ड मेजर टेम्परेचर पॉइंट व्हिच इज कॉल्ड द फ्लैश पॉइंट. ये फ्लैश पॉइंट वो है जिस टेम्परेचर के ऊपर मेरा लिक्विड फ्लेमेबल गैस पर उत्पादन करना चालू करता है. दे स्टार्ट जनरेटिंग फ्लेमेबल गैस. अगर उसको हम सोर्स ऑफ इग्नाइशन के बाजू में लेके जाए तब जाके वो आग पकड़ लेगा. सो बाय इटसेल्फ none of the flammable substance will catch fire. And the typical example हम हर बार देखते हैं, रोड में पेट्रोल का टैंकर चलता है. What is written on the tanker? Highly flammable. But have you seen any tanker catching fire? No. But you go near the tanker, you can smell the petroleum gas. Why it's not catching fire? Because it has not reached the flash point for it, or there is the self auto ignition temperature not been achieved. Not only that, even the vapor which is generated is not in that quantity that it can catch fire. Too little of vapor or too much of vapor, in both the cases, there will be no fire. The vapor is either too rich or too little for it to catch fire. The vapor must be of an appropriate quantity. तब जाके उसमें आग लगता है. So don't get a wrong notion कि ये class 3 है, तो क्लास 3 फ्लेमेबल लिक्विड है, वो हर बार आग पकड़ता है. नहीं, आग तब पकड़ता है जब उसका फ्लैश पॉइंट रूम टेम्परेचर के नीचे हो और उसके बाजू में हमने आग का कोई भी सोर्स लाके रख दिया, तब जाके वो आग पकड़ेगा. एंड यू कैन सी द लेबल व्हिच इज शोन, अगेन अ रेड लेबल. वी सॉ द रेड लेबल 2.1. नाउ दिस इज क्लास 3. हियर बिकॉज द रेंज is very high of the flash point, because 60 degrees is the upper end and lower end can be anything. I told you acetone is -20. Okay, so flash point, the packing group helps us determine what is that flammable liquid, what's the risk of that flammable liquid. So basically, if I have kerosene and acetone, we talked about acetone will have a flash point of a packing group of 2, whereas kerosene will have a packing group of 3, and it tells me that acetone therefore is more riskier than the kerosene. So the packing group is an important determiner of the risk within the particular hazard class. Then I have toxic substance. Now deliberately not taking solid and all that because they may not be there. And then I've not taken oxidizer also, and I will explain that a little later. Toxic, another substance, because toxic includes all poisonous material plus pesticide. As Sanjay was talking, India is becoming the big manufacturing hub of chemical. And which chemical mostly? We are talking about pesticide and agro-pesticide. India is a leader. Okay, and there are many specialty chemicals also where India will become the manufacturing capital world, and then we'll see a lot of this toxic material moving around. And this is one big problem area, and I'll tell you why this is the problem area. Now, this is solid or liquid substance which causes death. 3 methods: inhalation, dermal, or oral toxicity. Again, the label is same as we saw in the case of 2.3. Okay, now look at this table. There are 3 values given: oral toxicity, dermal toxicity, inhalation toxicity. Okay, in the last row is the limit given, below which if the value is there of the actual substance, then they are toxic material. Now यहाँ पर problem क्या आता है जो हम इंडस्ट्री में फेस करते हैं? We take that MSDS, और MSDS में हमको ये तीनों 3 वैल्यू होने चाहिए: ओरल टॉक्सिसिटी, डर्मल, इनहेलेशन. रीजन क्या है? कोई भी प्रोडक्ट किसी भी 3 तरीके के साथ सेम नहीं रहेगा. सपोज आई टेक ऑर्गेनोक्लोरिन पेस्टिसाइड और मेरे को टेस्ट करना है कोई भी ह्यूमन बीइंग के साथ. ओके, कोई पेस्टिसाइड खाने पर ज्यादा इफेक्ट करता है, कोई स्मेल के ऊपर इफेक्ट करता है, कोई स्किन में जाना। नाउ यू कैन लुक ओवर हियर दैट अगर मैं कोई भी डस्ट ब्रीथ करता हूं तो वो कहां जाता है? सीधा का सीधा डस्ट ब्रीथ करता हूं मेरे लंग में जाता है। लंग में क्या है? हमारा ब्लड सर्कुलेशन सिस्टम है, तो इट विल ट्रांसमिट टू द ब्लड इन द एंटायर बॉडी मच फास्टर देन इफ आई swallow the thing. So the impact of that same material on the three methods will be different on different people. In some case, the risk will be higher from inhalation. In some case, the risk will be higher from oral toxicity. So I have to capture all the values in my test report. The reason, hypothetically, or कोई भी अपने आप में note करके रखे, okay? Suppose a product, we talked about Trump, has an oral toxicity of say 45 mg per kilogram, has a dermal toxicity of 250 mg per kilogram and inhalation of 5. Okay, तो हमको क्या पैकिंग ग्रुप मिलता है? पहले में हमको पैकिंग ग्रुप 2 मिलता है, दूसरे में हमको पैकिंग ग्रुप 3 मिलता है, तीसरे में हमको मिलता ही नहीं क्योंकि वो लिमिट के बाहर है। What will be my degree of danger here? The highest packing group that I get, which is packing group 2. Now imagine मेरे को शिपर MSDS देता है और MSDS में खाली ओरल टॉक्सिसिटी लिखा हुआ है and that is only 250 mg per kilogram. मेरे को डर्मल नहीं दिखता है, मेरे को इनहेलेशन दिखता है, उसमें लिखता है not applicable. You think the airline will accept it? Or the shipping line will accept that data? Very quickly, anybody can answer that? Okay, so one says no. No, there is nothing called minimum 2 criteria. But tell me why. So what did we get here? We got packing group 3. What is the other 2 degrees available? Packing group 2 and packing group 1. So by not giving the other 2 data point, I may be hiding the fact that it has got packing group 2 or packing group 1. Now, why it is important very specifically for air cargo? As I said, packing group determines the packaging limit per package. Higher the packing group, lower the limit, lower the packing group, higher the limit. So technically, even though my product should have gone 5 kilos per package, now I'm putting 60 kilos per package because I'm using packing group 3. On the other hand, if I had my data saying oral toxicity is packing group 1, it doesn't matter whether I have other 2 data point or not, because I already reached the higher level of packing group. So you see that this is one of the reasons why the airline and many times the shipping line also rejects our shipment, because when they look at the MSDS, they do not find all the data point. And we try to tell the shipper, आप एक काम करो, इसको oral toxicity को निकाल लो और उसको class 9 में डाल दो, environmentally hazardous substance. My friends, never ever do that, because the shipper may remove this from section 11 of the MSDS, but he cannot change the product information which is appearing in section 1 and 2. और बाहर वाले अथॉरिटी, खास करके यूरोप और यूएस के अथॉरिटी के पास वो सब टॉक्सिक मटेरियल का इंफॉर्मेशन अवेलेबल है. And to bring a live case, a year and a half back, just before COVID, I got a message from a shipper, very well known pharma company. Okay, he called me to say that he wants to see me immediately. मैं गया तो he was telling me, मेरे को पेनल्टी लग गया, आप मेरे को इसको बचा दो. मतलब क्या पेनल्टी लगा? बोला wrongful declaration. तो मैंने क्या किया? मेरे पास पैकिंग ग्रुप नहीं था डर्मल और इनहेलेशन का, तो मेरे CHN या जो भी फॉरवर्डर ने बोला तुम इसको निकाल दो, 9 में डाल दो. मगर मेरा product information हटा नहीं सकता है because reach में registered है. And when it went to Europe, they caught it and I was penalized 50,000 euros. अब लगा लो उस जमाने में यूरो 92 था, कितना पेनल्टी उसको लगा होगा. All this material, toxic material or pesticide are available in the WHO website. So be clear about what you're doing. Not only that, you're also risking yourself because it is your people who are handling at the airport, at the shipping area while doing the custom clearance or handing over the cargo, that we are indirectly poisoning them over a long period of time. Okay, so moving forward, we have corrosive. Now, the technical definition is that when a corrosive, a substance is corrosive, when it causes through chemical reaction, complete damage to skin tissue. The word uses irreversible damage to skin tissue. Okay, मगर corrosive का दूसरा भी एक ये है कि ये मटेरियल को भी डैमेज करता है, मगर दो एसिड को हम लेके आए जो corrosive है, the two corrosive acid can react and they can cause fire as well. Okay, and then you have the class 9 and class 5.1, which is basically your oxidizing substance, are basically I call them the Narad Munis, primarily because this is a material which by themselves do not cause any fire. They are normal when nothing is around them. But किधर भी आग लगता है और ये मौजूद है, तो they contribute oxygen and they enable the fire to intensify. And therefore, it's very dangerous to have an oxidizer. First thing, whenever there is a fire, okay, around any place, whether it's warehouse, whether it is the CFS yard or wherever, if there's a fire and if there is a 5.1 substance lying there, before you evacuate anything else, remove the 5.1 from there as quickly as possible and keep them at a distance away. Okay, so classification basically is nothing but the three-way process. Criteria already established है. Shipper testing करता है अपना product का और check करता है कि वो product classification criteria से match करता है. Match करा तो it belongs to that particular class. Okay, so then it becomes dangerous. And once you know that this particular material is dangerous, the Trump is dangerous because it is both toxic as well as corrosive because it matches the criteria, then the next step is to find the name. And there's a procedure which is there, and I will really not look into that procedure at this moment because this is a very short duration of webinar. So this is the section of the MSDS, and this is how the data gets reflected over there. Okay. Now, while we are talking now, there are criteria which are given, okay, for each of the other class. Also remember that if there is no criteria or available or data available to measure the criteria, then human experience will go a long way in determining the nature of the hazard and the hazard class. So it's not just only looking at the data, but also looking at the human experience in dealing with the dangerous cargo. Okay, and the idea of the classification and identification is to find the most suitable name. Now, if this table, now without going into the technicalities of it, there are three names that are seen of a same product. Okay, now why I have put them one on top of the other? Okay, you can define the same product by three different methods. All are toxic material. Okay, the first one is a basic name. It does not give me more information other than to say it's toxic and solid substance. But when I come to the higher level definition, which is to say pesticide, because all pesticides are toxic, I now get more information. Okay, my universe comes down to a smaller area, but that is also not enough. There's a huge amount of pesticide available. So I go to the higher level. I now know it's an arsenical pesticide. Now, why this is important? By mistake, one of my guys have been poisoned by this particular material, then when I take him to the doctor or her to the doctor will be able to know and treat the patient quickly because he knows arsenical pesticide has got a particular antidote that can be given to save the person. So writing down the name means trying to find the most appropriate name that describes the product clearly. Okay. Some other cases now, if you look at over here, one case study I will try to give to you. Okay, if you look at section 9 of the MSDS, you can see that there is no data point or flash point given over here. Okay, if you look at the toxicological information, again, it does not say anything. It says not available, not available. So ideally, the shipper would say, "Yeah, product dangerous है ही नहीं." मगर हम section 14 में जाते हैं, it says it's dangerous. Okay. And not only dangerous, but it's packing group 1. Highest degree of danger. How did it happen? It's got toxicological information because talking about 6.1, but toxicological information is 0. Okay, or not available. And physical properties also not available. So when you go through the MSDS and look at the section 2 and 3, you see this information. Danger fatal if inhaled. यानी कि गलती से आपने इसको ब्रीथ कर लिया तो आप हिस्ट्री हो जाएंगे. This made the product packing group 1. So you have to always go by every aspect given in the MSDS. MSDS covers a lot of information. I am not a believer in MSDS primarily because most of the MSDS that we get over here are all doctored MSDS, which does not belong to the actual product which is being shipped. Not to say that people do not have the right MSDS, many people do have, but largely because you have to understand that most of the chemical trade is done by the trader, not the manufacturer themselves. And traders do not care about MSDS, they do not have any knowledge. And that is where it makes our job that much more riskier. We're talking about high consequence dangerous goods, goods which are having dual purpose. How do you identify them? You identify them through the IMDG code and the IATA DGR, where in the section it is given which are those DG which are called high risk. And if the high risk is there, what action we need to take? We need to create a security plan such that this product does not fall into the wrong hand. Okay, so we now come to the third part of controlling the risk, which is now looking at packaging, marking, labeling, and documentation. So we finished the process part, packing, and now we look at hazard and documentation. So we saw this earlier, and we saw that poor packaging was one of the major factor related to DG incident. So you can see very well what is the impact. Now, what is the packaging do? We saw in the case of fire safety thing, the difference between unsafe and safe packaging transportation is packaging. In the fire, you saw the 3 element, okay, oxygen, fuel, and heat. Okay, how do you eliminate one of them? Packaging. The whole purpose of packaging is to make sure the content does not come in contact with the outside environment. Whether it falls on the ground or doesn't fall on the ground, under no circumstances, the content must come in contact with other content or the environment that a risk can be created. Okay, so the packaging must be able to withstand normal rigors of transportation, must be strong enough to withstand the shocks and loading. Okay, and also possible accident when you're bringing it from the shipper to the port or the airport, and also looking at the fact that the ocean vessel looks to be safe, but there can also be huge amount of swell in the ocean because of which the vessel can move around more than 15 degrees off its center line, and if does that, then the likelihood of container falling into the ocean. Okay, so there are different types of packaging solution. Standard packaging are those which are up to 450 liters or 400 kilos. Okay, and these are both used for air as well as ocean. Okay, in air, the quantity still is reduced by the limit given in the blue pages of what we call the list of dangerous goods. In the case of ocean cargo, you can take the full load up to 400 kilos or 450 liters. Then there is something called IBC. Okay, very popular for ocean cargo, not so much for air. In air, it is only used for environmentally hazardous substance. Okay, otherwise we don't, and that also up to 1,000 kilos and not more than that. And then you have salvage packing, which is again an air cargo packaging this thing, where if something gets damaged in the airport, then you use salvage packaging to move the cargo forward. And then you have the what we call the ISO tank, mobile tanks that can be moved from one place to the other. Also, we have what we call the bulk containers, which are also used for transporting DG. And specification for their design and manufacture are all given in the regulation. And what is important to understand is that these packages must be made in accordance with those specifications. Different types of packagings are given in there. You have packaging system which are based on layer of packaging. So single packaging means the contents directly go and meet the inner side of the outer packaging, like this drum or jerry can. And combination packaging, where you actually load the content inside a container, and then put that container as inner packaging in an outer packaging. So what happens is the content do not come in contact with the inner side of the outer packaging because they are inside another container. So combination means more than one packaging which are used for carrying the content. The idea of combination packaging is to reduce the risk by reducing the quantity per packaging. Okay, so smaller quantity, though one larger outer packaging may carry 200, 300 kilos there, but inside each one could be less than 5 liters or 5 kilos, whereas the drums and all that can carry much more. There are also composite packaging. Composite packaging is like a flask. Okay. There are specifications which are given there. I'm not getting into them, but you see the two types of drum, and everything is specified in the regulation as to how the drums must be made, how the opening must be there. Okay, and you can see these two drums over here. One has got plain. Okay, there is nothing there, but in this one you have the hoops. These are for stability purpose. As the capacity of the drum goes up, then you require this thing. Then once the drum is tested, okay, they must be marked on the drum as to what the testing has been done, and the capacity of the drum is also specified. Now this is the capacity for the IMDG code. Okay, how much each drum can, or the range, this capacity is applicable for both, but largely this remains the same as for the packing instruction in the IMDG, and not so for the air cargo. Okay, and you can see the bags also can be used as a packaging material, but bags are not allowed in air cargo. Once the package has been made, they are tested, and there are 4 types of testing which are done. Basically, to test the suitability in the transport condition. And once the package are tested, they must be marked. So these are 2 types of marking that you will see on the package. One for single packaging to contain solid, or combination packaging of liquid or solid. This type of marking. Then if it's only packaged for liquids only, then you have this type of package marking. I'm not getting into them as to what it means, but remember that this symbol UN indicates the package has been tested in accordance with the UN mandate, and every package which has got this symbol and this type of marking given there, these are called UN specification package. And only a UN specification package can be used for loading and transporting dangerous goods. Okay, like the standard packaging, there are markings also for IBCs as well. Okay, and you can see these are examples there. Now, in the case of drums, single drums, which are capable of carrying more than 100 liters, what additional requirement is there? That while this marking is given on the body of the drum, okay, you need to also emboss the marking on the back of the drum. Like you can see this marking on the back of the drum as well, and you have to give the dimension of the drum also to indicate that this drum is capable of carrying more than 100-liter capacity. Okay, all this marking which are seen over there, you write by hand, Can you paste a piece of paper on which the marking is computer printed? No. This marking must be embossed or stenciled on the package by the manufacturer of the packaging and who has got the testing. Now, who gives the marking requirement? The lab which has done the testing will give the manufacturer what type of marking will go on the package, and based on that, that is called the test report. Colloquially, that means famous this thing, we call them as IIP report. But IIP, understand, is a test lab. IIP is not the authority. Okay, there are other labs which are also getting approved nowadays. I believe the shipping ministry has allowed for other agencies to also start doing the testing, and I'm sure that in next 6 months or so, 2-3 agency will come up who will be authorized to do the testing and give this marking on the packages. Okay, so there are different types of packaging solution that you can see there. The advantage in ocean cargo is the range of packaging solution is huge. Okay, you can go from standard packaging to ISO tank, which can carry up to, as I said, 20 liters. But the limit, and you can use single packaging. In air cargo, most often, and especially if it is passenger aircraft, you can only use combination packaging. You cannot use single packaging. For cargo freighter only, you can use single packaging there. That is the difference between that and this. Then for IBC, you have this type of marking which are there, and along with that marking, the IBC is also marked with this type of symbol to indicate that, and the additional load be put on top of the IBC, because the whole idea of using IBC is for storage purpose. Can I store them in my warehouse and stack them one after the other? So if this, you can see the stack load test given there, 10,800 kilos. So up to that, I can load on top of the IBC. And if that is the case, then I will put the weight over here. With the second symbol you can see on the right hand side as a cross mark means that this will be 0 over here, the stacking load test. Okay, and the next picture, value, that is 12,000, basically to indicate the net quantity allowed in that particular IBC. This is the bulk container I was talking about. Here, the DG is directly loaded in the container, and you can see that this container has 3 openings on the top. Okay, and you just pour it in there, not for liquid, only for powders and solid material. And then when it reaches destination, open the door and evacuate the whole thing. And if it is sort of this type of a bag type this thing, they are called flexible bulk container. We don't see flexible bulk container in India. We see them as large packaging, but we don't see them as bulk containers in India. Once you identify the solution, which type of packing is to be used, then you need to know how to pack them. And for that, you have packing instruction. The packing instruction, this is where the variation happens between IMDG code as well as the air cargo mode. Okay, so in IMDG, you see that this column number 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 talks about packing instruction. So column number 8 is packing instruction for standard packaging and large packaging. Column number 10 for IBC, and column number 13 for tank containers. So once you have the packing instruction, you go to that packing instruction and check whether you can load single packaging or combination packaging, and that's how you get this this thing. So this is a packing instruction P001. See on the top, you have combination packaging. At the bottom, you have single packaging. So depending on what type of packaging solution you want to have, the limits are given here. You can see, suppose if I'm using jerry cans, I've taken jerry can, I have a plastic jerry can. You can see that plastic jerry can, if I use in single form, can only take 60 liters. I may have a 120 liter jerry can, but I cannot use to fill up to 120 liters. I can only load up to 60. Okay. Whereas if I use it combination packaging, the same jerry can I can use for packing group 2, 120 kilos and 120 kilos. But what is important when I am loading for ocean cargo, because I'm loading in large quantity, when I'm loading liquid, I have to make provision for ullage. What is ullage? Ullage is the area or space that I have to keep for contraction and expansion of liquids. So generally that space is 8 to 10% of the total capacity of the container. So if I have a 100 liter drum, then I will load the drum only up to 90 liters, keeping 10 liter gap to allow for contraction and expansion. There are formulas available. People can use the formula and get the right amount of ullage to be kept, but nobody wants to do the calculation. So generally 8 to 10% is what is provided for. Okay. Again, while this is a packing instruction, there are many information that are given before the packing instruction as to how the packing must be done. And those are called either particular packing instruction for that particular UN number or general listing. For one, I told you ullage. There are some packages where you need to hermetically seal them. For example, if you have a substance of 4.2, which is a pyrophoric substance are those which, when it comes in contact with air, okay, they will immediately catch fire within 5 minutes. So what you have to do is you have to ensure that under no circumstances air is leaking into the container. So you hermetically seal. That means there is no possibility of air. Once you load the material, you vacuum space, okay, either by jacking with nitrogen or by air vacuumer. And then once you do that, you seal it in such a manner that there is no way air will enter. And this is something that we in our trade, that is basically custom inspection and brokering, we have to be careful about that. When we are taking there, we look for any sign that this hermetically sealed package is no more hermetically sealed. If that is the case, then we have to remove the package from the system. Otherwise, there is a possibility of risk getting materialized, that this cargo will come in contact with air and ignite and whatever that happens there. Okay, so these are how the packing instructions are defined for ocean cargo. Okay, when it comes to the case of container tank, ISO tank, then every tank has got a tank number, and you can see over here the tank number is T11 in this container. So if this is T11 container that I am using, and say I for this product that I see over here, that 1250, okay, my tank instruction is T10. Because this T10 is lower value than T11, I can higher value. The container is higher value than my tank provision, I can use T11. But how do I know for sure can I use T11? I look at this table and I see there that T10, I cannot use T11. I have to use T14, 19, 20, and so on. So I have to be sure. But tank is one very important element where people still do not understand what is the meaning of tank instruction. Whatever tank instruction is given, I have to only use that tank instruction or allowable substitute tank numbers. When it comes to air cargo, okay, I pick up the air cargo packing instruction, which comes from the, we saw this over here. Just go back very quickly to the, sorry, somehow there's a miss to pick that up. You see over here that I get my packing instruction from here. So for 1648, my packing instruction is 353. And what it tells me, the maximum net quantity that I can have per package is only 5 liters. So even if I have 200 liters, I have to divide that by 5, and that will be my number of packages which I can use. And once I get that, I just go to the packing instruction, okay, and see what are the types of packing material which are available to me that I can use. And I can see here, it says to me, single packaging are not permitted. That means I have to always use combination packaging. And it tells me what will be my limit inner packaging and what is my limit and what are the types of packaging I can use. This is how I will try to identify my requirement as to how do I really pack. Once that is done, my next step is to help the people in the supply chain know that I am having dangerous goods in the package or the container or the tank. And for that, we use marks and labeling provision. So marks is nothing but affixing information. What information? What is the nature of the goods there? How do I do that? By writing down my UN number and proper shipping name. Okay. Labeling, the hazard label, whatever hazard label I have for that particular hazard, I get that. Where do I get that? Again, in column 3 and 4 for IMDG code, and column 3 in the case of IATA DGR, I have my hazard given to me. I affix all those labels and on the package to indicate the nature of the hazard. If it comes to container, then or ISO tank, then I affix the placard. Placard is 250 centimeter by 250 centimeter. They are large size, and we'll see the positioning of this placard. So in the case of hazard label, there are design parameters which are specified in both the regulation, whether it's IATA DGR, because they come from the same area. What is the design specification? One, the label, whatever label is made or printed, must be able to withstand 3 months of immersion in ocean water. They must not get smudged. The information must not get erased off. The color must not get erased off. They must be able to withstand the rigors of transportation. In the hot sun, they must not become smudged. The color must not go away, or color must not fade away. Okay. The minimum hazard label size is 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter. Taken from where? You can see in the case of this white label, it is from this dotted line to the next dotted line. Okay. And everything is provided for. Okay. How much must be the thickness of this inner line? How much must be the space between the inner line and the surface of the hazard label? Now, do I need to put information? The information is optional. Some countries may insist that you need to have information of the hazard given. For example, if you send shipment to Brazil, they want you to write the hazard class in Spanish. Now, if that is the case, then first and that name will come below the center line. And first, you will write down in English whatever that class name is. For this one is toxic. You write down toxic in English, and then after that, you'll write down in Spanish the exact translated word of toxic. So this is how the specifications are given, and they must, once you stick them, they must not come out. Now, there are cases which has happened, and a lot of debate which has been going around on the label part of it. What happens? Okay, what happens that you handed over the package to the airline or the shipping line, and all the label were in place when you handed over to them. On arriving at the destination, the label was not there. Who's responsible? Shipping line, airline, or the shipper and their agent? Well, it has been held, it is the responsibility of the shipper, or if the shipper has outsourced the work to the agent to have ensured that the label or the placard on the container does not come out. And they have been held liable for any penal action. Okay, so merely the fact that the shipping line or the airline has accepted does not mean anything. The responsibility solely lies with the shipper or the agent to make sure the hazard label is firmly affixed on the package or on the container or on the tanks. So this is one example how a package of dangerous goods will look like. And you see over here, all the set of information, okay, must be on the same surface of the package. Now, the difference between the marking and labeling with respect to ocean and air, in the ocean cargo, you're only writing the shipping name and the UN number. For air cargo, 2 sets of additional information comes in, and that is the ship address and the consignee address. That's all that difference is there. Otherwise, everything remains the same. Okay. When it comes to the placard on the container, now, a lot of questions, and this is also funny part, that many a times the shipper or the agent puts all the DG cargo inside without any labels on the package because they say, I'm affixing the label on the container. Is it right? Answer is no. The package has to be marked as if the package is traveling by itself, not in the container. And the container must be placarded or marked as if it is containing DG. So both the activities are independent of each other. Okay, but both depend on each other for the same marking or label in there. Now, largely, the marking and labeling on the placard rule says that all containers must be necessarily placarded by all the hazard placard of the hazard contained inside the container. So if there are 2 hazard, then 2 hazard label will come. If there are 4 hazard label will come. If there's only 1 hazard label will come. How many side? 4 side of the container. What about the UN number and the proper shipping name? Well, the UN number is not required on any container which contains more than 2 dangerous goods. The UN number is not required on any container where there is only 1 DG cargo, but that is less than 4,000 kilos. Okay, so in 2 cases, the UN number will not come, where there is more than 2 UN number inside the container, and where there is only 1 UN number, 1 DG cargo, and that is less than 4,000. Okay, the only case where the UN number will come is where there's only single DG inside the container, and that quantity is more than 4,000 kilos. Then how do you write the UN number? The UN number will be written without the prefix UN in this orange panel. If you are affixing this outside the label, okay. So if there are only 1 hazard label, then you can affix the UN number inside the hazard card. But if there are 2 hazard placard, then you pick the you affix the hazard placard, and next to it you affix the UN number, and they must be in this border. Okay, 120 by 300 in black line and the orange background. Okay, how many sides? Same side as where the container placard will be there. That means 4 sides. Okay, front, back, and the 2 sides. Now, do I need to affix on the top of the container? Some shipping line, some port may insist because the crane operator is sitting at a very high distance, at height, he cannot see it, so he needs to know that. But from the IMDG perspective, only 4 sides the placard will be affixed. When it comes to the tank, ISO tanks, what are the requirements? Along with the placard, you need to also write the UN number on the 4 side, and also you need to affix the proper shipping name. Okay, only in the case of ISO tank. Okay, sometimes the ISO tank, now most often ISO tank is dedicated to a particular shipper. It goes to the destination, comes back, goes loaded with cargo, then comes back. Okay, and then if it's going to Europe, there's also a road journey. Therefore, it gets involved under ADR requirement. If that is the case, then this type of UN numbering will come. On the top will be the ADR HIN number, and at the bottom will be the UN number. Okay, this is because the tank is used up and down and the same tank, because it's very difficult to clean the tank after it is contained one type of cargo. Once you do that and you got your package ready, before loading the container, okay, one important factor that needs to be checked is, are my packages compatible with each other? Some hazard classes are not compatible, and this compatibility table is very, very detailed, as far as ocean cargo is concerned, and you can see that there are requirements. So when you look at this table, when do you know the two hazard class are compatible? When at the intersecting point of row and column, there is an X given. For example, is my class 3 compatible with class 5.1 in the same container? And I look at T in the row and then come below come here and come below 5.1 and see number 2 is there. So wherever there is no X number is given, that means they are not compatible with each other. Only when X appears between these two intersecting points like this, then it is compatible. Otherwise, they are not compatible with each other. Okay. There is other compatibility method also, that is by UN number, and that requires understanding of the IMDG code as well. So I'm not this thing, but I've given this example of zinc nitride and turpentine. You can see that both of them, one has got the this thing, zinc has got the classification of 5.1, and turpentine has got the classification of 3. So you can see over here that 5.1 and 3, as already saw, is 2. So they are not compatible with each other. But what about the other one? Beryllium powder has got a classification of 6.1 and sub risk of 4.1, and formic acid, which has got a classification of 8. Now, I first try 6.1 and 8. Okay, when I do that, I see that 6.1 and 8 are compatible. But now the first product also has 4.1. Now, when I look at 4.1 and check with 8, they are not compatible because 1 is there. So I have to look both primary hazard as well as secondary hazard and compare both of them. And if they're not compatible, I cannot load such material inside the same container, and I need to segregate that. Now, many times this table will also give false reading. So here we saw that this thing, for example, if you look at 8, okay, and I have an 8 product and I have another 8 product, you can see that 8 and 8 both are showing as X. That means they are compatible. But 8 also includes acid and also includes alkali. Okay, acid is not compatible with other acid. Acid is not compatible with alkalis. So if I have that type of product, then they are not compatible, irrespective of what this table tells me. Okay. When you look at the air cargo, the compatibility table is very, very restricted. Okay, it's very small, not that detailed as we see in the ocean cargo. And therefore, this compatibility table of ocean cargo is also used by CFS operator or any warehouse operator who are storing dangerous goods within them for doing the segregation in the warehouse or CFS. So X means they can be stored next to each other. 1, 2, 3 are basically the requirement for the vessel operator to see whether DG cargo can be stacked together the same or not. So contain have to make that they are not damaged, are not damaged, and then the segregation requirement are taken care of. And if there are wooden packages and all that, that they are fumigated wooden, they are meeting the requirement of requirement that package needs to be not having or must be tested under that particular requirement. Okay, once the package of dangerous goods are loaded, then the container must be tightly sealed. There must be no room in the container for any package to shake here and there. Okay, that means from the at the door point, you have to brace the cargo by putting a cross brace on the container. So these are some examples that you can see over here. Of course, now belts are available for doing the job of bracing, and you make sure and remember that between the container door and the final area where the last cargo comes in, there must be some space, at least of 5 mm, that must be maintained. Okay, as per the legal requirement of the container. And then you can see over here in this particular container that they have put some restraining material so that this cargo do not go and crash against each other. Now, this is very, very important. The cargo must, under no circumstances, must. And then care must be taken when you're loading drums. The drums have the habit, if you're using or loading drums directly and their drums are not on any skids or pallets, then one layer of drum, then you need to put some piece of spreader. It could be cardboard box or it could be plywood box before you load the second layer of drums on top of that. Otherwise, if they shift in the, they will definitely shift. And if they shift, the container can break into two and the cargo can spill out. Okay, this is what happens when the cargo is not properly loaded and you try to pressure push all the cargo inside that, and especially load heavy cargo on top of plastic drums. Okay, they cannot withstand that. And you can see in the second image what happens if they are not braced. Okay, this happens during the journey of the container. Finally, we come to the documentation part, the final step in the journey of to start the journey, that is documentation. And both the mode have what is called the shipper declaration. In the ocean cargo, we call it multimodal dangerous goods form, because in case of ocean cargo, generally the cargo flows from inland, either in the container or in a clearance form, because they are in large quantity. Okay, so there is a inbuilt default road transport available in there. Now, one thing you have to remember when we talk in terms of regulation, air cargo is the most stringent. Okay, so if you prepare the dangerous goods in accordance with the air cargo regulation, that applies for ocean cargo as well. Okay, similarly, if you prepare your cargo with respect to IMDG code, it applies to the road transportation as well. But for that to happen, the shipper declaration must be made from the point of origin of the cargo. Okay, and it must accompany that, and your bill of lading must also be executed at the point of origin. Then only the benefit of IMDG code is available to the cargo from the origin to the port side on the road journey. Okay, and here you can see that air cargo is also given there, because sometimes air cargo mode, there was a big moment in the past where part of the journey was by ocean. Say, for example, from Mumbai, when there was no enough flight available, cargo used to go to Dubai, and from there it would get airlifted. The other case, then you have multimodal coming in, and then you write down, and you can see here in the document that you write down the UN number, the proper shipping name, the class, the packing group, and the EMS code, and how many how many packages and what type of packages are used for loading the drum. And you can see that for one transport document number, there is one container. Okay, so of course you can have multiple container, one transport document number, but one container is unique to that, and the seal number, all those has to be given. And this part, the container packing certificate, is filled up by the shipper if the shipper built ULD, and if not, then is the responsibility of the consolidator to prepare the packing certificate of the container. And packing certificate is a different one. Then they don't build this, they don't prepare this. And once the shipper, once the packing is done, then the authorized person in the shipper organization will fill up the details of himself over here to say that, okay, I am complying with the condition. Now, what is the condition that the shipper is complying? You can read over here what the declarant says. That I hereby declare that the contents of the consignment are fully and accurately described below by their proper shipping name and are classified, packaged, marked, labeled, placarded, and are in all respect in proper condition for transport according to applicable international and national government regulation. So the shipper is saying that I'm complying with all the requirements of the law. Okay. How different is this from the air cargo? Okay, not much of a difference, except that in air, you have two types of cargo movement: passenger aircraft or cargo aircraft. Okay, a passenger aircraft shipment prepared according to passenger aircraft requirement can also go in a cargo freighter. Reverse is not true, and everything remains the same, except that this is more organized in terms of columns and all that. So you have the UN number, then you have the proper shipping name, then you have the hazard class and the sub risk, then you have the packing group, and then how you have packed it. Okay, and unlike the ocean cargo, in air cargo, you're writing down the packing instruction. Okay, and sometimes your emergency response number is written as per the requirement given there. So this is how the documents are made for both the modes of transport. So you then come to the last stage, which is saying, how do I make sure compliance happen? You go through the whole process again, see where these are. Okay, so finally, to conclude, how do you manage the show? You need to recognize the risk. What is the risk that is there when you are carrying or handling the dangerous goods? Okay, and see whether you are also complying with the local requirement of MSIHC rules if you are in terms of temporary storage or whatever. Okay, and carry out the risk mitigation strategy, understand what are the requirement. Unfortunately for us in India, we do not have a warehousing code which tells you how the warehouse for DG should be made, and that is a big problem. And in terms of IMDG code, 3 years back, that is the previous edition, which is today edition is 22-23. The previous one was 2022. It said that they introduced the requirement of conducting an audit. Okay, compliance audit. They have not mentioned how the compliance audit will be done, but it says it should be done. Whether what MSC is doing right now, asking for a vanning audit to be done, is that the audit in terms of what is given in the IMDG code? I'm not too sure, but yes, the requirement of audit is going to happen sooner than later. Everybody in the supply chain will need to be audited. Okay, so including safety and security is the two sides of the same coin, and it's our shared responsibility to make a secured world. Okay, so that is my presentation. So we got 15-20 minutes where we can pick up quick questions to be answered.
Yeah, Mr. Panikkar, this was a
I mean,
wonderful session, and it was good for if you are a beginner or somebody with few years experience also to refresh your mind. So it was a good combination of air and ocean. So I'll be looking at, I think there are some questions that have been asked in the chat, so we'll address them.
Yeah.
Some of them have been, those who have their questions, please put it in chat or Q&A. One question was from Nirmal Negi. Can you please advise about restricted classes and how carriers get approval for DGD shipments for DGR? I think we have covered the whole topic itself.
Yeah, I was taken. But remember that shipping line may they have their own requirement whether they will carry DG cargo or not. Unfortunately, all the shipping lines are foreign lines, so they have their regulatory department sitting outside India. But everything is today digitized. You send the requirement to them. They ask you a method, a sheet to put all the information there. Some will say give the declaration form, and they'll put that information, and then within a day or so they can get the answer. So they will use the same IMDG code with respect to whether they can carry or not carry.
Another question was, please educate if the shipper needs wants to ship 3 classes together, is this acceptable? I think.
Yeah, from the IMDG perspective, you can have multiple DG in one container as long as they meet the segregation compatibility requirement. Unfortunately, some shipping line do not accept multi-DG in one container. So you need to check with the particular shipping line whether they allow for that or they don't allow for that. But from IMDG perspective, it's perfectly okay to load multiple DG in one container as long as they are compatible with each other and they do not cause any risks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's one question. Can we store battery lubricants marked as non-DG inside warehouses? Very specific.
Okay, so we are not getting into warehousing part of it,
Yes.
because warehousing is a different ballgame altogether. The word dangerous goods comes only when you are transporting by ocean or air. Okay, it's not used in any other mode. Then you use hazardous, and you have to look at the local regulation. to see whether your hazardous material can be stored in the warehouse or not.
Great. Moving on to the next one. Are there any certificate courses on DG? I think on Ocean, if there are certificate.
Yeah. So we are, DGM is running the IMDG course for logistic people, which we cover all the areas other than what is required for the crew, that is section 7. But rest of it we cover, like we do the 3.5 days. If you want, you can send message to us at academy@dgmindia.in and we will give you the schedule. We run this course once in 2 months in Mumbai.
In the next one, in DG declaration, what is the authorization column stand for and why is it blank?
Authorization column, okay, you're talking
Shipper's
about air
declaration,
cargo.
I think, yeah,
Authorization, yeah.
DG.
The shipper declaration for air. Authorization is sometimes the cargo requires approval. For example, in India, radioactive material, you require the approval of AERB. Okay, so that you write that, if you get the approval, you write the name of that approval you got for carrying the radioactive material. Or if you are carrying explosives, okay, in explosives, you require the approval of DGCA prior to exporting. So you write down that over there. So that's for any authorization which is mandated either by the state or given in the regulation, you have to comply with. For example, if it is A1 or A2, A1 means that on passenger aircraft, you're not allowed to carry unless you get an approval from the government. So if you want to carry on passenger aircraft, you have to write down what authorization you got from which authority. So that is for that purpose.
I think we are getting a lot of positive feedback in the chat also. You can see,
Thanks,
so it's a good, very helpful session. I think filtering out. What does LD mean? I think somewhere.
Large packaging, anything. So there is a standard packaging. There's IBC. There's large package. There is tanks. There is bulk containers. These are all forms of packaging for dangerous goods and gas receptacle. Is anything above 400 kilos up to 3,000 kilos. Okay. Generally, you will find it in a pallet form only. The bottom will be pallet, and then you have a box type thing. You can load that. So anything above 400 kilos is called large packaging.
Then moving to the next one. Sometimes one carrier accepts a cargo as non-haz and with provided MSDS, while the other may say it is hazardous. How to go about in such tricky situations?
Welcome to the world of complexities. So that you have to become an expert person to outwit the shipping line, okay, and convince them that your cargo is a non-DG cargo. But as I said to you, you have to be extremely careful. Don't ever take the shipper's word for granted, because shipper many times will try to give a false information because they want the cargo to move. You have to be extremely, as a participant in the supply chain, it is our job to make sure that the shipper is giving us the correct information. And but also at the same time, if the shipping line says no to it, we must engage the shipping line to ask them why they are saying no. Line themselves do not have the answer. They just say, okay, humko lena hi nahi hai, magajmari kyun karna hai? Okay. It's not that they cannot carry, they just don't want to carry. So, or sometimes they fear something, they fear the customer name. The customer, sometimes some shipping line would do a lot of research work and have a list of shipper that they will not accept the DG cargo from. So in such case, they will not tell you that they have the list. They'll never tell you that, but that is what they do. And when you get cargo from that shipper, without telling you or offending you to say, I will not accept, they'll say, I cannot take this. That's all. So that is the reason. But then you have to engage them, find out the reason. You cannot argue with them. That's a problem. You cannot argue with the shipping line and the airline because the law regulation has given them immense power of refusal.
We'll just take the last final one. So how to identify segregation group? I think the table that was shown.
Yeah, so as I said, there are two types of segregation. One is by class that we saw the table. Okay, the other is by segregation code. Now, this is not a detailed course, therefore I'm not explaining, but by cannot be combined with another acid because they will react. So even though 8 and 8 are compatible by that table, by the product, they are not compatible. Okay, so that is the basic idea, that you need to check product compatibility to product compatibility also. Okay, so that's the answer.
Yeah, and one very good example you gave was the oxidizer, class 3 and class 5.
Yes,
You
yes,
keep something that makes a ticking time bomb.
yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Fine. I'll hand over this to Nirav for the vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mir.
Yeah.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, always.
Thanks, Mir. A very good evening to all of us who are present here, and I'm glad to have the opportunity to address you all and provide the vote of thanks. On behalf of BCBA, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to Mr. Radharaman Panikkar sir for today's informative session for all our members. Sir, this was a marathon session, and we appreciate and applaud your deep knowledge on this subject, as well as your excellent energy. And I'm sure if we did not have any time limit kept, you could still continue with the same rhythm.
Thank you, thank you,
As
thank you.
as mentioned by you, sir, the handling dangerous goods definitely involves risk, but as appropriately pointed out, it comes with threat as well. So, learning about responsibility is of utmost importance, and you have very well covered how to manage the risk, curtail the threat, as well as, being compliant responsibility. I mean, many not undergo DG training, maybe we have handled the goods, has give us an insight to handle the commodities. In fact, you explained the 3 pillars of managing safe transport, as well as, your examples made this session so interesting. And it has actually provided an excellent imprint on the topic in our minds. So, sincere gratitude from the bottom of our heart for conducting this session for our members. It's an endeavor of our president, Shri Dushyant Mulani ji, that training and knowledge upgradation of our members should be the top priority. And under his guidance, as well as Senior Vice President, Mr. Sanjeev Harale, who's also the office bearer in charge for training and skill development, as well as Mr. Paresh Thakkar, our Vice President, Mr. Ganpat Korde are present here. And the training, Mr. Tej Contractor, Ms. Chaitali Mehta, Mr. Mir Bhatkamkar, they all have natural passion for training. And they ensure that the relevant and most important topic of DG cargo awareness was chosen by you, to conduct by you, Mr. Panikkar. Even our board of advisors, office bearers, managing committee members, all present,
Oh, good.
as well as instrumental in guiding and sharing the inputs. And we're coming up with pertinent topics for these sessions, and they help in designing our program, as well as our secretariat, who is always there to help all our members at any time. In fact, I'm grateful and thankful to all of you here today who are patiently waiting in spite of the unfortunate glitch. This shows the eagerness to learn and attain the knowledge, and I'm sure this session has enlightened all, as well as inspired to handle DG goods. We are glad that all your queries were solved, and your presence encourages us for coming up with many such programs. With these words, we'll be signing off. Have a great evening ahead, everyone, and wishing you all a happy Republic Day in advance.
Thank you so much, Nirav. Thank you, Mihir, and thank you, Ganpat, and all those people, and Paresh and Paresh Bhai and everybody, and Chaitali and Tej. They've been pursuing me for last 2 months or so. And thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.